The Cold War Iron Curtain, A World Divided sucks, because it tries to simulate society and an economy in a game which mostly focuses on war. Don't get me wrong, a society simulator would be fun, but Hoi 4 just isn't the game for it. In Hoi 4, Paradox focused on war, adding things like tactics, doctrines, and being able to move each individual division, having the most influence on the war possible, unlike Victoria 3, which uses mainly just RNG. However, this meant they did not care about society and economics at all. If you disarm your nation, you'd think that you'd be able to spend way more of your GDP on better things like your industry or research, but instead it only gives you a measly 2% research boost. So, starting off with the beautiful policy changing feature of the Cold War mod. I actually loved it at first. You can choose how much of your budget goes towards things like education and welfare, and the benefits are actually abundant. But the huge drawback I found playing as the Soviet Union was that you couldn't go past the second level of spending, which was only one level above no spending at all. As a developed nation, which aims to better the lives of the people, I should be able to give at least an adequate amount of education, but I can't give them a proper education, and I have to import all my food instead of creating jobs, building farms, and work on my industry. This is stupid. I had to fail to better the lives of the Soviet people like Lenin and Karl Marx claimed communism would do, and I failed to give them a proper education and build farms to end the hunger in Kazakhstan in a mod which seems to be trying to simulate internal politics and the management of resources. And then there is external politics. It's a Cold War, so obviously they would add diplomacy, and they did do a semi-good job on it. The UN mechanic lets you demand things from others, and you can spend influence points to influence others to want to align with you rather than your enemy. But the issue I found was I had a positive 70 opinion from Turkey. I had an army that could steamroll through Turkey heading towards their border, and I had more influence over them than the US. You would think that when I politely asked them to switch ideologies, they would either accept or just say no. What ended up happening was they declared war on me and then got no punishment because the UN asked for a ceasefire and they accepted. Not only does this not make sense that Turkey was willing to kill hundreds of thousands of people on both sides just from a request that could have been declined, but the UN being able to start a ceasefire after a month of combat. In real life, every time the UN asks for a ceasefire, one of the sides disagree and the war continues, or the ceasefire lasts just a day. It never happens. The game failed to simulate external politics. And then the space race. The space race would have been a unique mechanic for a Cold War mod, separating itself from mods like Red Dusk, where you just complete focuses and wait. It's a unique mechanic I haven't seen in any other mod, and it would be fun to compete with the enemy, stealing research and putting extra funding into rocketry. But what they ended up doing with all this potential is they made it a tech tree. A really cool tech tree, I'll give them that. It looks insanely good with all the images, and it's mildly complicated with multiple trees. However, that's all the space race comes down to. You research and just wait. The entire game, when you aren't losing a war to attrition, is just waiting for your research and focus to end. And it's not like I could put more funding in to speed things up. I could only give my people minimal education, which slowed down my research time a lot. So yeah, the space race would have been a fun mechanic and made an excuse to add more decisions, or even a new tab, adding more complexity to the game. But instead, they made it all just a tech tree you'll keep your eye on every now and then, hoping the enemy doesn't work on their tech tree. There's another one of the mod's failures to simulate literally anything other than war. And finally, war. I know I'm ranting about the mod trying to simulate an economy and society, but you would think if they fail at these things, they would at least be good at simulating war at least, right? After all, Hoi 4 gives them a great foundation, with pretty much all the needed mechanics already there. No, they absolutely butchered war. I understand they were trying to simulate modern warfare, how war is hell, especially in the Vietnam War, and that's actually a neat idea if done properly, but what they ended up doing to make war hell is they gave you such an insane amount of attrition for no reason. You could have max supply in an area, you could be moving your troops in your own territory, and it would still take half a year just to move your troops from Poland to Turkey. It's not like making war hell is even that hard on you. The Great War Redux, a mod for World War One, had done it by adding famine and epidemic events that give national spirits, that give debuffs to your army, like less organization and less recruitable population. And the only way to get rid of it was by sacrificing your industry or stability. The Great War Redux perfectly simulates a hell created from war in a grand strategy perspective, making it horrible enough to cause stalemates, but not so insane that you fail to even fight the war. So yes, the Cold War mod fails to simulate the hell from war by exaggerating the attrition that caused many stalemates in the Cold War, despite having a clear role model being the Great War Redux. So in the end, in my 3 hours wasted on this mod, I've decided that it sucks. They failed to simulate internal and external issues, made the space race boring, and even failed to simulate wars correctly, despite having a great foundation and a clear role model. It's a big shame in my opinion, because they could have separated themselves from Red Dust easily by making a space race a fun minigame while waiting for national focuses to finish, instead of making the game a waste of time where all you do is wait for your research and focus to end and watch as all your wars fail because of attrition.
Sigma, Sigma boy, Sigma boy, Sigma boy.